Hey, it's Tim.
And it's Amy from GoWithLess. We're really glad you're here with us today. In today's video, we're covering part 2 of our Asheville, North Carolina incredibly fun time. We spent 7 weeks there this past summer, and last video we shared all about the weather and the great food that we had and some of the breweries and things like that. In this video, we're going to be talking all about the fun things that we did, and had a great time. We were there for 7 weeks. We saw 2 other states and did a lot of things, so I hope that you'll stay tuned for the entire video. If you missed part 1, don't worry about it. At the very end of this video, you can just link right up to it really easily, so look for that.
Every Wednesday, we come out with a new video here on our channel, typically talking about our nomadic life or our early retirement. We left our careers in 2015 in our late 40s, and in January of 2020, we sold our home and became full-time nomads. So what that meant, we had plans to be traveling abroad for most of the year, but now that we are here in the U.S., we have been traveling around the U.S. and spending 6, 7, 8 weeks in a given location and really enjoying our time here. America is beautiful, and we had a great time in Asheville, and we're going to elaborate on that a second time today.
But different things.
But different things.
Okay, we were in the neighborhood of the Biltmore where we stayed, and that meant that it just made sense to spend a lot of time at the Biltmore. We were right there passing it constantly. So we ended up becoming annual members. We happened to get some special deal through people that we met, so it was about $250 for the 2 of us, but it meant that we could go to the grounds with a reservation, but really anytime we wanted, and to the home. Now, it's phenomenal. It's one of the biggest houses in America, if not the biggest house in America, and probably the main attraction in Asheville, North Carolina, aside from the beauty and the Blue Ridge Mountains themselves.
It is very expensive. It was roughly $70 to go in per person to go in for a single day. And if that includes entry into the home as well as the gardens. And if you're going to go into the home, you'd also want to sign up for the audio guide, which is like another $12, $13. Another fee actually for the guide. So we've been round and round about the value, whether or not we would want to spend the $70 or $80 or $90 to be there for a day. And so I think I don't know. We really struggle again with the value. Certainly it's something, if it were free, we would wholeheartedly suggest
half price,
that
we would
you go to the Biltmore. If it was half price, it would certainly have the value. So it's something that if you've never been in something that's this big, and this is, again, potentially the largest home in America, then it's something we would encourage you wholeheartedly to do. If you've seen castles around the world or something like that, then this might be something that you might want to pass on. But nonetheless, there's lots of subjectivity there. But again, for us, our main struggle is just simply with the value of getting into the property.
And I do think it's hard to be in Asheville and not go to the Biltmore. So our audience had kind of demanded that we go, so we accommodated. Yeah. Now I'm going to get into some of the little nitty gritty because there were some kind of funny rules and regulations, and I had a hard time finding this out online. So I'm going to share it here. There's 2 hotels on the property, but the property is enormous. It's something like 8,000 acres. So the home and the formal gardens that are attached to the home are really only if you are getting a ticket. So if you do not have a ticket, if you're just staying at the hotel, you don't have access to the home. Maybe you have a package that includes access to the hotel and the home all in one, but that's not something that's normal. That might be a package deal. So just consider that I'm just going to stay at the hotel and that's my hack to get in. That's not true. You have to have a separate ticket to get into this huge area. But they do have a cool area with the 2 hotels called Antler Village. It is kind of touristy, like really touristy. There's like an ice cream place called the Creamery. There's a winery that they like to send wine to your home, like wine by mail. There's all kinds of restaurants. There's a petting zoo, a cute little petting zoo with chickens and potbelly pigs and I think goats, and a blacksmith exhibit that was closed because of COVID. But what we really enjoyed was a temporary exhibit there that was a train exhibit, and they had these it looked kind of small, but it was really packed a punch in this small place. I love model trains. Like I've loved them since it was Christmas time as a little girl, and I always loved that. So they had made out of all these natural materials train stations from around the U.S. out of like twigs, and it's not going to sound as impressive. I'm going to show some video. Isn't it cool?
It was very cool, and so really the highlight of this exhibit wasn't necessarily the trains, it was the stations that the trains were going through that were made out of these interesting materials. And so it was a really, really cool exhibit, although small. And there's a good chance that it will be gone if you happen to watch this later in the year.
Actually, it's going through, I think, early 2021.
Okay, well then
yeah, it got extended because of COVID.
So it was certainly something to see. And so, and the grounds at the Biltmore. The Biltmore is a gorgeous, gorgeous place. The grounds are just lovely. It's set on the French Broad River, and so there's just unlimited things to see there in terms of just the grounds themselves. But anyway, it was great.
And I'm going to mention something about this Antler Village, because as annual pass holders, if somebody was in our car after 5 p.m., we were able to bring guests into the Antler Village area only. So they could have seen the train exhibit or things like that. Now, of course, this could change at any time, but that is what is happening when we were there.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
It's great.
Now, we are going to go to the Blue Ridge Parkway.
If the Blue Ridge Parkway, I don't even know all the states it runs through. I'm sure Amy does. So
just Virginia and North Carolina.
Just Virginia and North Carolina. There you have it. This is a really cool, it's like a 2-lane road that just runs through the woods for miles and miles and miles and miles. And it seems like every quarter mile there is a trail that's set off of the parkway where you can park and you can go on a short hike, and so
or a long hike.
Or a long hike. So there's just phenomenal scenery all along the parkway. There are these tunnels that go through the side of mountains that are interesting. So everything about this is just glorious, and it goes for miles and miles. And it's free to simply get on it and drive. There's also an information center right outside of Asheville. It was closed during COVID, so I'm sure when things return to normal, that will be open again. And it seemed like they were providing a little bit of information just outside. You couldn't go in the facility. And just a little bit of information that they provided was very helpful. So I'm sure when they're open and doing the normal thing, it'd be just a great place to go and find out about all the things there are to do along the parkway.
And it goes right through Asheville, so it's very convenient to pop on. Now, we could have spent 7 entire weeks exploring the Blue Ridge Parkway and probably not even made a dent in it. So we did visit hikes several different times along it, and really pretty vistas and nice picture-taking opportunities and things like that. But again, that could take you like years to get that done. But at that visitor center, they gave us a free, kind of like a newspaper, and it listed a lot of the hikes. And it was like over 100 listed hikes with the level of difficulty and, I don't know, the distance and things like that. So it was really incredibly helpful.
Very useful. Also,
and free.
Something to know about North Carolina just as a whole is there are waterfalls on every corner, it seems. And so along the parkway, there are a ton of waterfalls. In addition to just nice hikes, there are lots of waterfalls and lots of trees. I think I mentioned in the last video, I love a tree. And so this state is full of them. And so I really love North Carolina.
Next, the North Carolina Arboretum. It is a botanical garden, and it is actually right off of the Blue Ridge Parkway. There is a fee for that, but the fee covers your entire car. Friends there gave us a free pass, which was so generous because we went for free. But if you pay one price for the car, everyone in the car is included. Now, we really like, so he likes a tree, I like a flower. So it was beautiful. It was one of the nicer botanical gardens that we visited, and we have visited a lot of botanical gardens. They also had a small train exhibit, not as extensive as the small exhibit at the Biltmore, but it was still cute. And then they had like all these Lego, this is probably temporary, but they had all kinds of garden-y sorts of things made out of huge structures out of Legos. And that was cool.
It was phenomenal.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, so, and I think there's a lot of value in going to this place, just paying the one fee and everybody in your car gets in. So I think you could probably go here and spend the full day, bring a picnic, and just tour around. As a matter of fact, we went towards the end of the day. We did not get, even though our pass was free, we didn't get our value out of our pass because we were only there for maybe an hour or two, which was very unfortunate. So we just saw a subset of what there was to see, and this was just, it's manicured gardens and completely lovely. This is, again, someplace that we would highly, highly recommend if you like a flower. There's also trees there if you like a tree.
We were both so happy.
It was a very great place just to go and observe the natural beauty.
Now, one of our favorite hikes in the area was Catawba Falls. It wasn't a long hike. I fell down twice. 2 separate times I went. Both times I fell down because it was a little bit slippery. All these waterfalls make for slippery terrain and rocks and slippery hills and things like that. So I guess I'm just clumsy enough. Thankfully, I was fine. But it was a really quick drive from Asheville. It was one of the closest hikes.
Let's say quick being about an hour.
Yeah, quick. So, you mean the drive?
Yes.
No, it was like 40 minutes, I think. But whatever. So it was an easy drive from Asheville to this town where the Catawba Falls were. And again, it is up. I don't know that I would recommend this for mobility impaired, but it wasn't a strenuous or hard hike. It was, my mom is in her 70s. She did it without any issue whatsoever. I had a bigger issue because of being clumsy. But at the end, you keep going until you get to stunning waterfalls. They reminded us of Maui. So we were not expecting waterfalls in North Carolina to look anything like Maui, and wasn't that a beautiful surprise?
It wasn't. This was the first set of falls that we went to while we were there, and so I think, like Amy said, we were shocked. I think that just driving over from Tennessee into North Carolina, you go through all the trees and you see the smoke on the mountains, and it's a glorious sight to behold. And then to see this waterfall to top it off, it really, I think it just brought home for us how pretty this state is. And so the Catawba Falls were fantastic.
Yes.
Highly recommend that.
Another great hike that we did was at the Dupont State Forest, and this was another free place to go hiking. There were lots of different waterfalls here, and there was also a really pretty covered bridge. So it was more flat than Catawba. It was and along this nice circle path were a whole bunch of different waterfall views and vistas.
Yeah, so as we had our hunt for waterfalls, so anytime I'd have a conversation with somebody, we'd ask them, what are the waterfalls you have to see? And consistently, Dupont is the place that people sent us, and it certainly was an amazing place. There are multiple places, I think, where you can park, I don't know how to describe the various parking places, but it's a huge place, and so there's lots of things to do and see there. People bring their bikes there, people hike there, and there's just a lot of ground there to cover. And so this is a place, again, where you could go and spend a whole day just exploring the park or multiple pieces of the park. And lots of waterfalls, lots of natural beauty, lots of trees.
Lots of mushrooms.
Lots of mushrooms and insects that were very interesting. So great place to go and visit.
Tim likes to take pictures of all these mushrooms, and so I'll be showing some of those over this video. Now, the downtown of Asheville itself is very charming. So we enjoyed, because our neighborhood didn't have any sidewalks, and we do love walking, we got in the car many nights and just drove ourselves down to Asheville and walked around and just did some window shopping and people watching. And I don't know, it's just fun. We like cities. We like walking cities because of the variety to our senses. And downtown Asheville is big enough that it's not crazy. It's just very manageable and really charming.
Yep, they have a nice grouping of breweries as well as restaurants that are all downtown. So you could spend easy an evening, many evenings, I guess, entertaining yourself in downtown Asheville. And so we unfortunately don't know what it's like when theaters are open and things like that. But nonetheless, the downtown area is just a nice place to explore as well. There's also little shops and things if you're into shopping, which we are not necessarily into shopping.
We're into looking.
We're into looking. It's a window shopping. And so there's lots of interesting little shops in downtown Asheville as well.
Let's talk about some of the towns that we visited outside of the Asheville area. There were a lot of them. So we're going to start with a couple teeny ones. Hendersonville, we've mentioned before. Our friends go apple picking there. So friends and family in the Charlotte area come up to pick their apples in Hendersonville. And I was wondering how this area might look in the fall time because of all the incredible trees. And so I'm going to guess that apple picking and with all the beautiful trees will be absolutely stunning. But Hendersonville was great, and there was a really good, like an old-timey, there's a little like main street with an old-timey bakery right out of like my 10-year-old self dream, and it was called McFarland's right on the main strip. Then we went to Brevard.
Yep, Brevard is a very interesting place. They have this unique thing there. It's called a white squirrel. So I guess there are a few cities around the country where white squirrels live, and this isn't an albino squirrel. It's actually a unique type of gray squirrel, I think, but they're very interesting. So there's that. There's also a bakery that we found in Brevard. It was the Blue Ridge Bakery.
Yeah.
And I think that was the brown.
Unbelievable.
We had two different brownies there.
They gave us one for free. The customer service was, we couldn't decide between the two. So he comes out and he gives us, so we only want to share one. We're trying to lose weight. So we order one and he knew we were debating. So he brought out another one and the customer service was just excellent. And they were equally as good as desserts get.
Brevard is also home to Oscar Blues, which is a Colorado brewery that makes great beer. And so if you happen to be there, apparently that's an event to go to Oscar Blues. We actually drove by it, and we had expectations it was going to look like Sierra Nevada, which is like, this is a huge, magnificent place. Oscar Blues was a little different than that, but
a lot.
But nonetheless, it seemed like it's. We heard rave reviews from a variety of people. We didn't go in, but maybe something you'd want to do if you're in Brevard.
And the little town of Brevard is a cute little town as well to spend a little time walking around. Now, we met my sister and her family in Greenville, South Carolina. Greenville is really nice because there are huge waterfalls right in the middle of downtown Greenville. That was not something that we expected. So it was a beautifully planned downtown, walkable kind of a city. And they had like a fun scavenger hunt that my niece found online that we took. So just looking for little mice from some sort of a book, I guess, like little like bronze mice or something like that around the downtown. So we walked all the way up and all the way down, enjoyed the beautiful waterfalls. Definitely a place to see in that area.
Yeah, so it was lovely. So the day that we were there, and I don't know if this is just indicative of the day, but it was hot and very, very humid. In July. And so I think when we got back to Asheville, it wasn't that hot and humid.
But this is South.
I know it's the South, but nonetheless, it was hot and humid in Greenville, South Carolina. So it was an interesting day trip for sure. I think there's more to do than what we did. So we've heard great things, and so I know there's lots of great restaurants. It's a cute little downtown. It seems like they've done just a lot of economic development in the town to make people want to come into Greenville. So it is definitely a place to visit.
Okay, we saved one of the best for last. So we took a day trip to Knoxville, and we were only in Knoxville really briefly for lunch, and then we drove home through Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Friends told us, you are not even going to believe what you see in Pigeon Forge, and she was right. It was like Las Vegas meets Mars, and it was unbelievable. So it was kind of like the main strip of Las Vegas. With me, it was 4 miles long with attraction after attraction after attraction that were completely insane, fun to watch. If we were, again, our 10-year-old self, I would have loved that bakery, and I would have loved Pigeon Forge,
Amy
Tennessee.
keeps saying if you were your 10-year-old self. I think I would have liked to have done some of these things. They have
It's where Dollywood is.
It's Dollywood. I would have been happy to go to Dollywood. And so that's actually outside of town and its own sort of thing. And so it's an amusement park, and so something that I would like to do. But also they have like the Hatfield and McCoy's dinner feud, which sounds like that would be fun to me. It's probably a buffet.
You'd call that a hoot.
That would be a hoot to go and watch them feud while you eat your dinner. So I don't know.
There were a lot of advertisements for that. So for like 2 miles before we got to it, there must have been 50 different billboards for the Hatfield and McCoy's dinner feud.
Yeah, they had lots of feuds. I think they had a lumberjack
Paula
feud.
Dean's lumberjack feud.
They had pirates feuding. They had
lots of feuding.
They had a Civil War show. So there's lots of feuding in this town.
But yeah, so interesting people watching. Super, super interesting. Not some place that we're going to go and spend a lot of time, but certainly for like touristy, kitschy, it was super fun. If you have kids, this would be like a hit. And then we ended up in Gatlinburg, which was very, very different. So it was very touristy. It was, instead of these big giant buildings in Pigeon Forge, just right down the road south from Pigeon Forge, it was a little more charming. It was more charming.
The description that Amy gave of Vegas meets Mars, I think if you threw Vail into the mix, because it's in a mountain setting, maybe it's Vegas meets Mars meets Vail. So they have like chairlifts. I think you take out the
Vegas. Maybe Vail meets Mars.
Maybe Vail meets Mars. I don't know. But they have very interesting, just touristy sorts of things, kitschy sort of stuff. And so it was a busy little downtown. Seems like it's very active. There's lots going on.
There's like a Ripley's Believe It or Not there, and a lot of tourist stuff.
We didn't get out of the car in Pigeon Forge or in Gatlinburg
because of COVID.
So
and there were a lot of crowds.
A lot of people. These places were very crowded, and so I'm sure during non-COVID times they're even more crowded. So
you wanted to be careful.
Very crowded places.
Yeah. And also the beauty of driving between Asheville and Knoxville and the Smoky Mountains is absolutely beautiful. It was kind of like a rainy day when we started our journey. It became real beautiful and sunny as the day continued, but it was rainy and misty, and it made it really, I don't know, kind of romantic, and it just the Smoky Mountains were extra smoky, and that made for interesting driving.
Yeah, it was lovely. So I just can't say enough good things about that journey from Tennessee to North Carolina.
Now, I'm going to have a honorable mention for the little town of Hickory, North Carolina, because we were meeting people we met 4 different friends and family members from Charlotte. Hickory was a perfect in-between spot. So just in case you have this as well, Charlotte's a huge area, and maybe you have friends and family, but Hickory was a perfect right in the middle spot. And there's a nice little very, very little downtown area of restaurants and things like that. It's not a touristy town. It is a town where people buy a lot of furniture, but definitely a nice in-between. And what was the name of that sandwich shop that we went to?
It was called Hatch Sandwich Shop, and they had some very unique sandwiches. It was a delicious little place, and it was a little off the square.
Kind of gourmet, so it wasn't your normal sandwiches, and they really had some talent in the kitchen, very creative. I wasn't expecting anything like this. I was expecting a sandwich shop in Hickory, North Carolina to be like the basic sandwiches. No, they were fantastic sandwiches.
Not Subway.
Yeah, not even close, and really gourmet for a sandwich shop. So I think that's it from me for Asheville. I will say, is there anything else about activities before we wrap it up? Because I want to mention something else.
Nothing I can think of.
Now, because of COVID, we weren't able to do everything. And because 7 weeks isn't that much time when there's so much to do, we didn't do everything. So we do need to go back. And what we're thinking is going back maybe June to October one year, have a long stay. Just that we were too busy there. We had a lot, we had back-to-back social plans. So we are going to go back at some point. We don't have any plans at this point, but we would like to go to the town where they filmed some of Dirty Dancing is at Lake Lure. We didn't get to do that. The Grove Park Inn is supposed to be wonderful. We didn't get to do that. So there were a lot of hikes along the Blue Ridge Mountain Parkway.
Hundreds of hikes.
Yeah, and all these different hikes all over the place. We didn't get to do as many as we would like.
I do have one more thing. So also, if we're there during the fall, so we've seen pictures of the trees turning, so it looks a little like what the Northeast looks like. We certainly don't know, but we believe the trees turn all these pretty autumn colors, and so it would be a great thing to be there in the fall to experience the trees changing colors, because we assume that would be a glorious thing to behold.
That's right. So that's it from us from Asheville. Next week, we are in a new location, so I hope you'll stay tuned next Wednesday. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.